Evan Mercer did not sleep that night. He sat at a small kitchen table with a cheap lamp overhead, his phone face down beside a notebook filled with names, times, and phrases that didn't belong in a healthy society. A judge attempting to block evidence. A bailiff moving to remove a child the second she spoke. A clerk hesitating like the bench itself had gravity. A prosecutor switching sides only when the room turned against the robe. And one sentence that had changed the temperature of the world. He wasn't the one driving. Evan stared at the location pin again. A diner off the interstate. Too many windows. Too much open space. A place designed to make you feel visible from every angle. Calvin sat across from him, the calmest man Evan had ever met. Calvin's body still looked like it belonged to a hospital bed, but his eyes looked like they belonged to a war room. Lila stood near the sink, rinsing a coffee mug that was already clean. She wasn't washing the mug. She was giving her hands something to do so her mind wouldn't spin apart. On the couch, Daniel slept sitting up, his head tilted back, mouth slightly open. He looked like a man who had been forced to learn how to rest without truly feeling safe. Sophia slept curled against him under a blanket. She had one small fist closed around a folded envelope, even in her sleep. Her mother's photo, her mother's last instruction. Keep what you saw. Evan spoke quietly. We don't bring them. Lila turned. No, she said immediately. No diner, no windows, no strangers. Evan nodded. Not them, he said. Just us. Calvin didn't argue. Calvin just looked at Evan like he was measuring what kind of danger Evan was willing to absorb. If this is a trap, Lila whispered, they won't come for you first. They'll come for the child. Evan's jaw tightened. That's why we move the child before dawn. Calvin leaned forward. 2 cars, he said. 2 routes. No patterns. Lila's hands stopped moving. Where do we take them? Evan didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, the safest place in a system like this was not a place at all. It was uncertainty. It was motion. It was being harder to pin down than a file. Calvin spoke like he had already done the math. We take them to someone outside the county, Calvin said. A women's shelter that doesn't advertise addresses. A church that knows how to protect without paperwork. Lila swallowed. And we tell Daniel? Evan looked toward Daniel, asleep with his daughter. We tell him the truth, Evan said. If he refuses, we don't force him. If he agrees, we move fast. Lila's eyes softened. He'll agree, she whispered. He watched a judge try to take his child's voice away. He knows what this is. Evan looked at Sophia. He had seen fear in adults. He had seen it in doctors, in administrators, in men in uniforms. But the kind of fear that sat inside a child was different. It wasn't fear of losing power. It was fear of losing love. Evan picked up his phone and opened a new note. 2. Diner. 10:30. Bring your eyes. Calvin's voice lowered. We bring our own eyes too, Calvin said. You record everything. Evan nodded. Audio and video, he said. And if she asks for privacy, we say no. Lila's gaze sharpened. She'll walk if she thinks we're recording. Evan said it anyway. Then she walks. Because that tells us she wasn't here to protect anyone. She was here to control. The sun hadn't risen yet when they moved. Daniel woke in confusion as Calvin gently shook his shoulder. Daniel blinked, saw Evan's face, saw Lila's eyes, and understood without being told that the next steps would not be normal. What is it? Daniel whispered. Evan kept his voice quiet so Sophia wouldn't wake. We're relocating you, Evan said. Temporarily, until we know who's connected to that courtroom. Daniel stared, breathing slow. You think they'll come? Evan didn't sugarcoat. I don't think, Evan said. I know. Daniel looked down at Sophia. His throat moved. Okay, he whispered. Tell me where. Lila knelt beside them. Not far, she said. Just safe. And you don't tell anyone. Not family. Not co-workers. Nobody. Daniel nodded like a man agreeing to a storm plan. Then he whispered something that shocked Evan. "They already tried," Daniel said. Evan's head snapped toward him. "Tried what?" Daniel's voice went smaller. "Last month, before court," Daniel said. "A man followed Sophia from school. Not close enough to call it stalking, just close enough to make her feel watched. Sophia told me, and I thought she was imagining things." Leela's hand went to her mouth. "Oh my God." Daniel's eyes filled. "I should have listened," he whispered. "I should have trusted her." Evan exhaled slowly. "Now we listen," Evan said. "Now we trust everything she feels." They moved Daniel and Sophia before the sky fully turned blue. 2 cars, 2 routes, no pattern. When they arrived at a small church with a parking lot that looked empty, a woman opened a side door. She didn't ask questions. She didn't ask for IDs. She didn't ask for paperwork. She looked at Sophia and softened. "Come in, sweetheart," she whispered. Daniel hesitated. "Is this?" The woman's voice was steady. "It's safe," she said. "And if it stops being safe, we move again." Daniel nodded and stepped inside with his daughter. Evan stood in the lot for a moment after the door closed. A silence that felt like a held breath. Lila spoke quietly. "Now it's just us." Calvin looked toward the highway. "Now we go to the diner," he said. They arrived 10 minutes early. The diner sat under a flickering sign that made it look like it belonged in a movie. Big windows, bright interior, a place where everyone could see everyone. Evan parked across the street and watched. A man inside wiped the same table in slow circles. A waitress refilled sugar packets like she was bored. A couple sat near the back, laughing too loudly. Calvin's eyes swept the lot. 2 cars idling. 1 truck with tinted windows. A sedan that looked empty but didn't feel empty. Lila's voice was low. "This is wrong." Evan nodded. "It is." Calvin spoke without drama. "We go in anyway," Calvin said. "But we don't sit. We order coffee to go. We watch the door." Evan and Lila moved first. Calvin followed half a step behind, not as a bodyguard, as an anchor. Inside, the warmth and smell of grease hit them. The waitress looked up and smiled. "Morning," she said. "Seat yourselves." Evan's eyes moved. He watched hands. He watched eyes. He watched what people did when they thought nobody was watching. Then he saw her. A woman in a dark coat near the corner booth. Early 40s, controlled posture, face that looked practiced, not pretty in a fragile way. Pretty in a weapon way. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just lifted her chin slightly. Evan walked toward her booth. Calvin stayed standing. Lila stayed near the counter. The woman spoke softly when Evan reached the table. "You came alone," she said. Evan didn't sit. "I didn't," he replied. "And I'm recording." Her eyes flicked to his phone, then back to his face. She didn't look surprised. She looked disappointed. "Turn it off," she said. "No," Evan said. The woman sighed, like he was inconvenient. Then she leaned forward anyway. "You don't know what you stepped into," she said. Evan's voice stayed calm. "Tell me," Evan said. "Tell me who was driving." Her mouth tightened. She hesitated just long enough to prove the answer mattered. "A man," she said. "Not the judge. The judge doesn't dirty his hands when he doesn't have to." Evan held her gaze. "Name him." The woman's eyes flashed. "If I name him," she said, "I'm dead." Evan didn't flinch. "Then, you were dead the moment you called me." The woman's jaw tightened. "You're not smart enough for this," she whispered. Evan leaned slightly closer. "Maybe not," Evan said. "But the room is full of witnesses today, and your voice is a weapon if you choose to use it." Her eyes shifted to the windows, to the people, to the sense of exposure. "That's why I chose this place," she said quietly. "Public keeps them polite." Calvin's voice came from behind Evan. "Public keeps them patient," Calvin corrected. "Not polite." The woman's eyes snapped to Calvin. Who is he? A friend, Evan said. The woman exhaled slowly, then did something unexpected. She placed a small flash drive on the table. Evan's eyes locked onto it. The woman spoke carefully. That flash drive contains footage from a camera across Oak Ridge Elementary, she said. A private security camera. The county tried to subpoena it, but the owner refused. I copied it. Evan's throat went tight. Who are you? The woman looked at him like the question was childish. Someone who used to work for them, she said. Someone who learned what happens when you say no. Calvin's voice was quiet. Name. The woman hesitated again. Then she said it. Mara, she said. Mara Vance. Leela stepped closer, hearing the name. Mara. Mara's eyes flicked to Lila. And you are the reason he didn't bring the child, Mara said. Good, because the child is the leverage. Evan's hand moved toward the flash drive. Mara placed her fingers on it, stopping him. Not yet, she said. Evan's eyes narrowed. Why? Mara leaned forward. Because you need to understand the shape of this, she whispered. If you take that and run, they'll come for you. If you understand what it shows, you can hit them where they can't recover. Calvin's voice was flat. You're stalling. Mara's eyes flashed. No, she said. I'm making sure you don't die, stupid. Mara looked at Evan. You want to know who was driving? It was the bailiff. Evan froze. The bailiff, Mara said again. The one who reached for the child. The one who follows orders before he asks why. Calvin's face hardened. That makes sense, Calvin murmured. Evan's mind raced. A bailiff driving the judge. A bailiff moving to silence a child. A bailiff with access, mobility, and legal cover. Mara continued, voice low. The bailiff isn't just muscle, she said. He's a courier. He moves evidence. He moves people. He moves threats. He is the hands of the robe. Evan's jaw tightened. Name. Mara's gaze dipped. She spoke the name like it tasted bad. Deputy Bailiff Randall Pike, she said. Evan felt something cold settle in his gut. Pike. Calvin's voice was quiet. And the judge? Calvin asked. Kessler. Mara nodded. Kessler is one, she said. There are others. And if you think this ends with a resignation, you don't understand how deep this goes. Evan stared. How deep? Mara's eyes lifted. Deep enough that the courthouse can't clean itself, she said. Deep enough that the people who should stop it get promoted for not seeing it. Lila whispered. Then who stops it? Mara looked at her. Nobody, she said. That's why it keeps happening. Until someone makes it too loud to bury. Evan looked at the flash drive again. What does it show? Mara's voice dropped further. It shows the car, she said. It shows the impact. It shows the passenger in the back seat. And it shows the driver's face. Evan's pulse quickened. Pike's face. Mara nodded. And it shows something else. Calvin leaned in slightly. What? Mara's eyes narrowed. After the hit, she said, a second car pulls in. Not police, not ambulance. A black SUV. No markings. 2 men get out. They don't run to the victim first. They run to the driver. They open the door. They speak. They hand him a phone. Then the SUV blocks the camera's view for 3 seconds. Evan's breath slowed. 3 seconds. That's all you needed to swap something, to remove something, to control. Mara spoke the line like a knife. When the SUV moves, she said, the driver's seat is empty. Lila's voice caught. Empty. Mara nodded. They moved Pike, she said. They moved the judge. They moved the story. And then the next day, Daniel Reyes gets pulled aside and warned to shut up. Daniel had been telling the truth, and the system had responded like a predator. Evan stared at Mara. Why give this to us? Mara's eyes hardened. Because Sophia did what adults couldn't, she said. She stood up. And when a child stands up, it makes monsters nervous. Calvin spoke slowly. You're scared. Mara's jaw tightened. I'm realistic, she said. Evan reached again for the flash drive. Mara let him take it this time. Evan slipped it into his pocket. Mara's eyes flicked to the window again. Then she spoke quickly. "You need to know the next move," she said. "They're going to try to discredit the child. They'll say the photo is fake. They'll say the plate was planted. They'll say she's coached. They'll say her father threatened the judge. They'll turn the victim into the villain." Evan's voice was steady. "How do we stop that?" Mara stared at him. "You don't stop it with logic," she said. "You stop it with reach. You make it public before they can shape it." Calvin nodded. "Leak it." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Not to local news," she said. "Local news is local power. You leak it to someone who doesn't eat in this county." Lila whispered. "National." Mara nodded. "National," she said, "and federal. Because if you keep this in the courthouse, they will strangle it quietly." Evan's phone vibrated in his pocket. A message. Unknown number. "You're in the wrong booth." Evan's blood went cold. Calvin saw Evan's face change. Calvin's head turned toward the diner entrance. Two men walked in. Not loud, not dramatic, but their shoulders were too squared, their eyes too scanning. They didn't look like breakfast. They looked like assignments. Mara's face tightened. She whispered, "It's time." Evan's pulse spiked. "Now." Mara slid out of the booth first. She moved toward the restroom like she was a normal customer. Lila stepped back from the counter. Calvin shifted his stance, placing himself between Evan and the men. One of the men turned his head slightly. His eyes landed on Evan. Recognition. Not of a face, of a target. Evan's voice stayed low. "We leave separate." Calvin nodded once. "I distract," Calvin said. "You move." Evan grabbed Lila's hand lightly. "Go." Lila moved toward the door with controlled speed, head down, like she was late for work. Evan followed at an angle, not directly behind her. The men started walking, not running, because running would create noise. They wanted quiet control. Calvin stepped into their path like an accident. "Excuse me," Calvin said, smiling faintly. "Is this seat taken?" The men stopped. The first man looked Calvin up and down, then smiled, a smile with no warmth. "Move," the man said. Calvin didn't move. "Sorry," Calvin said, still learning the layout. The man's eyes narrowed. Then he tried to step around Calvin. Calvin shifted too, blocking again. The second man's hand dipped slightly toward his jacket, not pulling, threatening. Lila reached the door. She pushed it open and stepped into daylight. Evan followed, heart pounding but face controlled. Outside, the air felt sharp, too open. Evan saw his car across the street. Then he saw the black sedan start to pull out from the far edge of the lot. Slowly, quietly, like a shark testing water. Calvin's voice rose inside the diner. "Hey," he said, "you guys, local. Any idea where I can find the courthouse?" The question was bait. It was loud enough to pull attention. Evan reached his car. He opened the door fast and slid in. Lila was already in the passenger seat, breathing hard. "Go," she whispered. Evan started the engine. The black sedan turned toward them. Evan reversed fast, tires chirping slightly on the pavement. The sedan accelerated. Lila's voice shook. "They're following." Evan didn't answer. He turned onto the road, merging into traffic like he belonged there. The sedan followed. Evan's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. He saw the sedan's driver, a man with a square jaw, a face that looked familiar in the way a face looks familiar when you've seen it in a room full of uniforms. Evan's stomach tightened. He had seen him at the courthouse. Deputy Bailiff Randall Pike. Pike was driving. Mara had been telling the truth, and now the truth was chasing them. Lila whispered, "Evan." Evan's voice stayed low. "Seatbelt," he said. "Phone ready." Lila's hands shook as she grabbed her phone. "Who do we call?" Evan's voice was flat. "Not local." Calvin's car appeared behind them, cutting into traffic between Evan and Pike. Calvin had made it out. Calvin was now the shield. Pike's sedan tried to pass Calvin. Calvin drifted slightly, blocking. A dangerous dance. But Calvin's movements were precise. Evan took the next exit. Not toward the church. Not toward any predictable location. He moved toward the industrial side of town, where roads forked and cameras were fewer. Lila's voice cracked. "He's going to hit us." Evan's jaw tightened. "Let him," Evan said. "If he hits us, it's not quiet anymore." Lila stared. "That could kill us." Evan didn't deny it. "Then we make sure we aren't the only ones recording," Evan said. He tapped his phone and started a live upload to a cloud account. Not a social feed, a private drop. Auto backup. Lila did the same. Calvin's car kept blocking. Pike honked once. Not anger. A signal. And then Evan saw it. A black SUV. No markings. The same kind Mara described. It merged behind Pike like it had been waiting. Evan's throat tightened. It wasn't just Pike. It was a team. Lila's voice went thin. "This is a system," Evan said it quietly. "Yes." Ahead, the road narrowed. A construction zone. Barriers. Fewer lanes. Pike wanted that. Pike wanted them slow. Evan's eyes scanned. A side street. A service road. A narrow cut between warehouses. Evan turned sharply onto the service road. Calvin followed. Pike followed. The SUV followed. The noise of the highway faded. Now it was quieter. Worse. They were in a place where nobody would notice an accident. Evan's hands tightened on the wheel. Lila's breathing was fast. Calvin's car swerved slightly, forcing Pike to slow. The SUV moved to the side, trying to pass. Evan's mind raced. If the SUV passes, they can pin Calvin, then hit Evan. Evan's eyes locked onto a chain-link gate ahead. A loading area, with a wide opening. A dead end, but with one advantage. Cameras. A warehouse security camera pointed toward the lot. Evan turned into the lot. Calvin followed, then cut across Pike's path, forcing Pike to brake. The SUV rolled in behind them. Now they were all in one space, and the camera was watching. Evan stepped out of the car. Lila grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" Evan's voice was calm, making it loud. Calvin got out too, standing slightly behind Evan. Pike stepped out of the sedan. He didn't wear a uniform, but his posture still did. The SUV doors opened. Two men stepped out. The same men from the diner. They didn't speak. Pike looked at Evan like Evan was a problem that needed to be corrected. "You took something," Pike said. Evan didn't pretend. "Yes," Evan said. "Give it back," Pike said. "And you walk away." Calvin's voice was calm. "We already uploaded it," Calvin said. Pike's eyes narrowed. "Uploaded what?" Evan's jaw tightened. "The footage," Evan said. "The proof. The driver's face." Pike's eyes flicked slightly. A micro-movement. Fear, hidden behind training. "You don't understand," Pike said quietly. "You don't know who you're playing with." Evan stared. "Then tell me," Evan said. "Who?" Pike's lips pressed together. He didn't answer. The SUV men shifted their stance. One of them pulled out a phone. Camera pointed at Evan. "Not recording for evidence. Recording for control." Pike spoke again, voice low. "You think you're the hero," Pike said, "but you're just another witness who can be managed." Evan's voice stayed cold. "Like the child." Pike's jaw flexed. "Don't talk about the child." Evan's eyes sharpened. "So she scares you." Pike's face hardened. "She should have stayed quiet." Lila's stomach turned. "You're talking about a child," she said, voice shaking with rage. Pike looked at her like she was irrelevant. "Children are trained," Pike said. "Children lie. Children are used." Evan stepped forward half a step. "She didn't lie," Evan said. "And you know it. Because you were there. Because you drove." Pike's eyes flashed. "You have no idea," Pike said. Calvin's voice cut in. "We know enough," Calvin said. "We know you didn't hit that man by accident. We know you moved. The judge. We know you tried to remove the witness. Pike's gaze moved to Calvin. Then he smiled slightly. And who are you supposed to be? Calvin didn't blink. Someone you can't intimidate, Calvin said. Pike's smile faded. Then Pike did something that made Lila's blood run cold. He looked at Evan's car. He looked at Lila. And he said, "Soft targets are always the lesson." Evan's chest tightened. "Lila, get in the car." Lila didn't move fast enough because shock slowed her. One of the SUV men stepped toward her. Calvin moved first. Calvin stepped between the man and Lila. The man stopped. Pike's voice was quiet. "Don't," Pike said. The man hesitated, then stopped. Pike looked at Evan again. "You can't protect everyone," Pike said. "That's what breaks you. Not the fear, the math." Evan's jaw tightened. "What do you want?" Pike's eyes narrowed. "The flash drive," Pike said. "And the photo." Evan froze. The photo was not here. The photo was with Sophia. Safe. But Pike knew it existed, which meant Pike was listening everywhere. Evan's voice went low. "You're not getting near that child." Pike's face stayed hard. "We don't need to," Pike said. "We just need people to believe she's a liar." Calvin spoke quietly. "You're going to smear an 8-year-old. Pike shrugged, almost bored. "It's easier than you think," Pike said. "A social worker file, a school note, a rumor, an anonymous complaint. People love a story that makes them comfortable again." Evan's hands clenched. "You're sick." Pike didn't react. "I'm employed," Pike said. Silence sat between them. Then sirens started. Not close, far at first, but growing. Pike's head turned slightly. His eyes narrowed. Not fear, calculation. Calvin's voice was calm. "I called State Patrol," Calvin said. "Not county." "State." Pike's jaw tightened. "Smart," Pike said, "for a dying man." Calvin didn't flinch. "Still alive," Calvin said. The sirens grew louder. The SUV men shifted. One opened the SUV door like he was ready to leave. Pike stared at Evan. "This isn't over," Pike said. "It's just louder now." Evan's voice stayed steady. "Good." Pike's eyes burned. "You're going to get the child hurt," Pike whispered. "And when that happens, you'll blame yourself." "Not me. You'll blame yourself." Evan's blood turned cold. "Don't you say her name." Pike smiled faintly. "Sophia," he said softly. Lila gasped. Calvin's eyes went hard. "You don't say her name unless you know her." Pike's smile widened slightly. "We know everything," Pike said. The sirens were close now. Pike took one step back, slow, controlled. The SUV men retreated to the vehicle. Pike turned toward his sedan. He got in. The SUV doors shut, and then they drove away before the patrol cars arrived. The sirens reached the lot seconds later. 2 state patrol cars pulled in. Officers stepped out, hands near their belts, eyes scanning. Evan raised his hand slightly, showing he wasn't a threat. One officer approached. "You called," the officer said. Calvin nodded. "We did." The officer's eyes moved to Evan, then to Lila, then to the empty tracks where the SUV had been. "What happened?" Evan's throat was tight. "We were threatened," Evan said. "And we have evidence connected to a hit-and-run near Oak Ridge Elementary, connected to court interference." The officer's expression tightened. "That's a big claim." Calvin's voice was calm. "We have video," Calvin said. "And we can identify the driver." The officer looked at them for a moment, then said something that made Evan's stomach turn. "I'll take a report," the officer said. "But if this touches the courthouse, it gets complicated." Evan stared. "Complicated how?" The officer hesitated. "Politics," he said. "Jurisdiction. People call people." Evan's jaw tightened. "So even you?" The officer cut him off gently. "I didn't say no," he said. "I said careful." Careful was another word for slow, and slow was what systems needed. Calvin spoke quietly. "We don't want careful." Calvin said. "We want documented." The officer nodded. "Then give me what you have," he said. "And keep copies." Evan nodded. "We already have copies." The officer studied Evan's face. "Why are you doing this?" Evan looked past him at the road. "Because a child stood up in a courtroom and told the truth," Evan said. "And I refuse to teach her that truth gets punished." The officer's expression softened slightly. Then he nodded. "Okay," he said. "Let's do this right." Evan drove back to the church with his hands shaking, but his voice steady. Leela stared out the window. "They knew her name," she whispered. Evan's jaw clenched. "Which means someone is watching the child," Evan said. "Or someone watched the courtroom and followed the story." Calvin's voice came through the speakerphone from his car behind them. "No more single location," Calvin said. "We rotate. We move Sophia tonight." Lila's voice cracked. "She can't live like this." Calvin answered without emotion. "Neither can you," Calvin said. "But you will, because survival comes first." When Evan and Lila returned to the church, Daniel was waiting near the side door. His face was pale. "What happened?" Daniel whispered. "Evan didn't lie. They found us," Evan said. "And they knew Sophia's name." Daniel looked like someone had punched him in the stomach. "How? How do they know?" Evan's voice was controlled. "Because this isn't one man," Evan said. "It's a network." Daniel's eyes filled. "Sophia is just a kid," he whispered. "She didn't ask for this." Evan looked at him. "No," Evan said. "She didn't. But she did something rare. She told the truth. And now we have to protect the truth like it's a living thing." Leela stepped closer to Daniel. "We're moving her tonight," Lila said. "Somewhere they can't predict." Daniel nodded quickly. "Okay, anything." Sophia appeared in the doorway behind Daniel. She looked tired, but awake. Her eyes moved from Evan's face to Lila's face, and then to her father. She knew. "Are they mad?" Sophia whispered. Daniel knelt to her height. "No, baby," he said. "They're scared, and scared people do bad things." Sophia hugged the envelope tighter. "Mom said scared people lie," Sophia whispered. Evan's throat tightened. "Your mom was right," Evan said softly. Sophia looked at Evan. "Are you scared?" she asked. Evan didn't pretend. "Yes," Evan said. "But I'm more scared of you growing up thinking silence is safer than truth." Sophia stared for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. That night, they moved again. A different church, a different town, a different set of keys. Evan kept thinking about Pike, Pike's calm, Pike's certainty, Pike saying Sophia's name like he owned it, and Mara. Mara's flash drive, Mara's warning, the SUV, the empty driver's seat, the 3 seconds of blocked camera. Evan sat in the dark, with the flash drive plugged into a laptop. Calvin sat beside him. Leela stood behind them, one hand on the chair, like she needed contact with something real. The footage played. A school parking lot. Kids running, parents walking fast. Then the sedan. The impact. The coffee flying. The man falling. A door opening slightly. A figure in the back seat. Hard to see, but present. Then the driver's face in the reflection. Clearer than Evan expected. Randall Pike. Then the black SUV, 2 men, stepping out, moving to the sedan, the SUV blocking the view. 3 seconds. Then the sedan door opening again. Then nothing. The driver's seat empty. Evan's chest tightened. They moved him. They moved the story. They moved the blame. Calvin whispered. "Watch the back seat." Evan leaned closer. The judge's face appeared for a fraction of a second. Kessler, in the back, watching. Then the SUV door opened. A hand reached in. A phone was passed. Kessler's face changed. Not surprise. Relief, like someone had reassured him. Calvin paused the video. He rewound, slowly. frame by frame. A hand, a ring. Calvin's eyes narrowed. That ring, Calvin whispered. Evan's pulse spiked. What? Calvin zoomed in. The ring was gold with a dark stone. Distinct. Unusual. Calvin looked at Evan. I've seen that ring, Calvin said. Evan stared. Where? Calvin didn't answer immediately. He let the silence grow until it became heavy. Then he said it. On the prosecutor. Evan's stomach dropped. The prosecutor who had stood in court. The prosecutor who had nodded when the judge was removed. The prosecutor who had looked righteous at the end. Evan's voice went low. No. Calvin's eyes stayed hard. Yes, Calvin said. Either it's him, or it's someone who wants to be mistaken for him. Lila whispered. That means... Calvin finished it. That means the people who look like allies can be assets, Calvin said. Evan's chest tightened. The system didn't just use muscle, it used legitimacy. Evan stared at the paused frame, the ring, the hand, the message. You stopped the wrong judge. Evan whispered, Who's the right one? Calvin's voice was quiet. The one who can survive exposure, Calvin said. The one who can shape the story afterward. Lila's voice shook. What do we do? Evan looked at the screen. He looked at the ring. He looked at the truth. Then Evan said the only answer that made sense. We go bigger, Evan said. We take this out of the county. We make it public. And we do it before they touch the child again. Calvin nodded. Federal, Calvin said. Lila swallowed. And Mara, she whispered. Where is she? Evan stared at his phone. A message appeared. Unknown number. Stop digging, or the child becomes the headline. Evan's blood turned to ice. Then another message. This time, a photo. A picture of Sophia's school backpack. On a sidewalk, a few feet away from the school gate, Evan's throat closed. Lila saw the photo and made a sound like her heart had cracked. No, no. Calvin's voice went flat. They're marking her, Calvin said. They're telling you they can reach her. Evan's hands clenched until his fingers hurt. And then his phone rang. Unknown number, Evan answered. Mara's voice came through, fast, panicked. Evan, she whispered. They found me. Listen carefully. The prosecutor isn't just involved. He's the one who gives orders. Evan's breath caught. Mara's voice shook. You don't have time, she said. They're coming to the church next. They'll use paperwork first. Then they'll use fear. Evan's voice went low. Where are you? Mara's voice broke. I made a mistake, she whispered. I thought public would protect me. It doesn't. It just delays them. Evan's jaw tightened. Mara, stay on the line. Mara whispered one last sentence, barely audible. It wasn't Pike's car. Then the call cut. Evan stared at the phone. Lila's eyes filled with tears. Calvin's face went stone still. Evan's voice came out cold. She said, it wasn't Pike's car. Calvin nodded slowly. Which means Pike is a driver, Calvin said. But someone owns the vehicle. Someone higher. Evan stared at the footage again. The hand. The ring. The phone passed to the judge. Then Evan understood what the system really was. It wasn't one judge. It wasn't one bailiff. It wasn't even one courthouse. It was a chain, and whoever held the chain never walked into court. They stood behind it. Evan looked at Lila. Pack everything, Evan said. Now, we move Sophia again. Tonight? Lila's voice shook. Where? Evan's eyes went hard. Somewhere that doesn't have a courthouse, Evan said. Somewhere that doesn't know their names. Calvin spoke quietly. And we send the footage now, Calvin said. Before Mara disappears completely. Evan nodded. Now, Evan said. Evan uploaded the footage to 3 separate secure drops. Then to a journalist contact he trusted in another state. Then to a federal tip line with a detailed summary. then to a private attorney in a different county. He didn't send it once. He sent it in layers. Because systems could bury one copy, they couldn't bury all of them. Evan leaned back, breathing hard. Lila whispered, "Will it be enough?" Evan looked at the photo of Sophia's backpack on the sidewalk. "No," Evan said quietly, "but it will make them hurry. And when they hurry, they make mistakes." Calvin's eyes stayed cold. "And mistakes are proof," Calvin said. Outside, the night was silent, too silent. Evan stared into the dark and realized the hardest part wasn't exposing the system. It was surviving long enough for the truth to land. Because now the system wasn't just defending itself, it was hunting. And Sophia, the smallest person in the story, had become the biggest threat to the people who controlled the ending.